Hey, Larken Rose here. So, the real topic of this video is going to happen in a minute, but something just happened today. Just unbelievable. Literally unbelievable. Here you go. So, there was a shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas where some horrible person was randomly firing bullets into this ICE facility, not apparently aiming at anybody, and golly gee, just happened to only hit 3 immigrants being processed, killing 2 of them. That's the story. And I have no reason to doubt that 2 immigrants were killed. But then we're shown this. Kash Patel posted this picture, and we're supposed to think this is real. This is like a few 10-year-olds trying to pull off a false flag. Anti-ICE. I'm going to write in blue magic marker, anti-ICE on my shell casing before, with the intention of leaving that behind. To me, that looks like 308 or something comparable. First of all, it's pretty expensive. Second of all, that's serious rifle ammo. So you went there writing that on a shell with the intention of leaving it there? Because if you were going to take it with you, writing something on a shell casing doesn't do anything. Second of all, who would write anti-ICE? This is so idiotically juvenile. It's like, oh, Larken was caught with a gun and it said anti-government on it. No, that's what you dumbasses call it when people oppose your fascist bullshit. Somebody actually, I'm going to go knock off some ICE agents, wouldn't write anti-ICE. This is just so pathetically stupid. They also wouldn't indiscriminately fire into a place. If they're upset by the treatment of immigrants, which decent human beings should be, they're not going to wildly fire into a place. How convenient for the power-happy psychopaths that only immigrants got hit. Because if actually some of you ICE Nazis got hit or killed, there would be some people going, well, rah, 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 maybe stop being fascists. This way, you have a story where absolutely everybody can be against the shooter, and then these clowns can come out and go, this is why we need security. And sure enough, Gestapo Barbie immediately came out with this lame-ass post, oh, you have to stop saying that ICE people are Nazis. We have families, and we just want to get... Are you under the impression that actual literal Nazis in the Third Reich didn't have families and didn't want to get home? Yes, you Nazi fucks. People are calling you Nazis because you behave and act and think exactly like Nazis. You deserve every bit of hatred you're getting. And even doing this bullshit false flag stunt is not going to make people hate you less, especially when you're this bad at it. The fact that Kash Patel posted this picture and wanted people to believe it is just astounding. Yeah, that's totally what somebody would do. And then take a high-powered rifle and just indiscriminately fire into a building? Like, if someone decides to be a sniper, that's exactly what they don't do. If you take a high-powered rifle somewhere, it's because you want to be able to make a bullet go into a particular place. It's just, the story is so stupid. It's literally like a number of 10-year-olds trying to pull off a false flag, and it's just utterly idiotic. So, be that as it may, moving on from that, and literally when I first saw the picture, I thought it was somebody joking. I thought, I saw the story about, somebody shot up an ICE facility, and I was like, was it ICE shooting up their own facility to do a false flag? And I saw that picture. I literally thought it was somebody making a joke and writing that on and taking a picture like, this is probably what they're going to pretend to find at the scene. No, that's literally what they pretended to find at the scene. And anyway, moving beyond that ridiculous spectacle, what I actually wanted to make a video about, and the reason I lumped that in is because it's related. And I shouldn't joke too much about that because as ridiculous as it is, as far as I know, 2 immigrants were actually murdered. And my first guess, my second guess, my top 100 guesses would be murdered by a government agent doing false flag bullshit, because none of that matches what would actually happen. Even if, like, lots of people are really mad at ICE, and, like, even if some people were going to get violent, which I could easily imagine, none of that is what it would look like. First of all, high-powered rifle ammo, like what normal people... Like, you think your average leftist is out there buying 308 and then writing messages and a rifle that just, no, you're full of shit. Be that as it may, I have no reason to think that 2 people didn't actually die. So that's pretty freaking horrible, despite the laughability of the story they're trying to tell. But the video I already had planned on making, which I still will, starting now, is... once again on the topic of normal people being hampered by the fact that they can't contemplate how psychopaths function. And if normal people who are decent human beings try to make sense of what they see going on in the news and in politics and stuff, they can't. It doesn't add up because they can't comprehend being a psychopath. So it doesn't jump to mind that anybody would do things that psychotic and that evil. So the imagination of the average decent human being doesn't extend to what some people in government do on a regular basis, just profoundly evil crap. Now, as I often point out, if you want to see a perfect glimpse into the mindset of psychopaths, go read the Operation Northwoods documents. And it wasn't, oh, some rogue agent was that crazy. It was the entire Joint Chiefs of Staff that signed off on committing terrorism on U.S. soil against Americans and elsewhere to justify a war. Go read it. You can see in their own words. You can see their attitude. You can see their mindset. They don't give a shit about human beings. They don't care at all about human life. They care about power and money, and they will murder innocent people to get their way. So I wanted to quick throw this out there. Now, I'm not even saying this is what happened. I'm saying if it doesn't occur to you as a possibility, then you really don't know how psychopaths function and how they think, and you are going to be at their mercy precisely because you don't get how they view the game. So the Charlie Kirk murder. Again, I'm making this up. This is a hypothetical. I don't think this is what happened. I mean, very well could have been what happened. I'm not saying I totally think this is what happened. I'm saying this is absolutely the way these people think. So you get this guy, Charlie Kirk, and he has lots of followers and lots of listeners and lots of people who think he's really awesome. And he's out there doing the thing and pushing including Republican authoritarian bullshit in the name of law enforcement and military crap. But he's having discussions and he's having debates and having exchanges of ideas. You can argue about how honest and open he was or not, whatever. He's out there having discussions. Now, picture yourself as a freaking power-happy psychopath. Good, he's out there playing the game. He's playing that set of puppets against that set of puppets, and that's what they need, 2 sets of puppets arguing with each other. But he's actually kind of helping the 2 sides get along more, because there's a number of Democrats who are listening to him going, oh, he isn't really racist and he isn't really nasty, and now that I listen to him, he's kind of making some good points. That is not what the ruling class wants. What they want, instead of somebody who said, I don't hate my opponents, I want to talk to them, I want to change their minds, that was this whole thing. What the ruling class wants is somebody who would come out at Charlie Kirk's funeral, point out that Charlie Kirk didn't hate his enemies, and then say, that's where we're different, I do hate my enemies. That's what Donald Trump did at Charlie Kirk's funeral. Because that's what the ruling class wants. Hatred in both ways. They don't want discussion. They don't want people trying to understand opposing sides, even if they still disagree, trying to understand it. No, they want the hatred. So if you're a psychopath and you're looking at Charlie Kirk going, well, I mean, he helps lots of people go rah-rah-rah about the Republican Party, but he's also starting to say things that are kind of doubtful of the official story. He's starting to say things that don't completely worship the butts of the psychopaths who run the ruling class of Israel. He's starting to doubt some things. He's starting to point out some things. He's saying the Epstein files should be released. He's saying these things that are kind of problematic. Now, to the normal person, the imagination would extend to the point of, okay, he's saying things they don't like. Would they kill him for that? Probably not, but I mean, maybe. That's the extent where most people's brains go, because most people aren't frickin' psychopaths. That is not where the psychopath brain would stop. The psychopath brain would be, how do we use Charlie Kirk's notoriety and his popularity now that he's starting to kind of wander off and be a little bit counterproductive? It's not just we want to shut him up. We want to exploit the attention he has, the notoriety he has, to serve our agenda. And him being alive isn't doing that so well because he's kind of a little bit heading off the plantation. But if we kill him and martyr him, and then have this big to-do and this glorious grand thing to make everybody who would have been listening to him loyal to this political party. For him, we're going to fight the evil left and blah, 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 blah. For this person who is actually in some ways headed in a good direction that is contrary to authoritarian enslavement of humanity. Well, that way we can put on a big show and have all these parasitical slimeball politicians exploiting the death for their own good and pushing more division and pushing censorship, despite the fact that Charlie Kirk was against both of those things. He wasn't trying for division. He wasn't trying for censorship. He condemned both of those. But if we make a big show, and particularly if we can blame the left for this murder, put out some patsy, oh, some trans person, or somebody who was in a relationship with a trans person, he did it, let's not think about anything more. Let's not look too closely at the story that doesn't make any sense. Because that way we can very much fuel the division that Charlie Kirk was trying to work against. Because we can go, oh, he was just saying what he thinks, and then this evil leftist person murdered him. So all these people can go, rah, rah. And then we, the psychopaths in power, are going to continue to focus on and give attention to those leftists who will come out and go, yeah, he deserved it, because they didn't really pay attention to him anyway. We can get some great divide and conquer out of this if we just kill him. So it isn't just to silence him because he's a little bit off the plantation and starting to be like critical of ruling class of Israel and things like that. We can get lots more mileage from him with him dead than we can with him alive, and a lot more division. Because he isn't all that divisive. He's a little bit divisive as long as we push the left to make up stuff about what he says. But man, think of the division that we can get if we just kill the guy, blame the left, then there'll be this, and put on this huge show and make everybody focus on this. Oh, how could this horrible thing happen? The left did it. That's how psychopaths think. Do I think that happened? I don't know. Is that a possibility? Abso-fucking-lutely. That is how these people think. It is how these people function. If you're a good little pawn of the machine one day, good, well, we'll let you be there being a pawn. If the next day you look like a little bit of a threat, they're thinking, okay, how can we off this person and in the process serve our political agenda and the divide and conquer game? And do all that, and we'll put on a big show to remind everybody, have everybody focused on this, and intentionally create division. That's how they function. That's how they think. I don't know that that's actually what happened in this case, but it's 1,000 times more believable than their bullshit official story. Now, the thing is, some people are like, well, look at all the hatred against Charlie Kirk. I could absolutely imagine a possibility in which some super angry, mentally unstable leftist decides, you're so hateful, I'm going to murder you. It's not that I can't imagine that. I can easily imagine that. It's that their official story in this case is just laughably stupid. It doesn't add up at all. What they say happened. So the general idea of somebody on the left being so mad that they murder somebody else, that's easy enough to believe. There's a lot of very angry, unstable people who've been taught to totally hate half the country by the ruling class that is also teaching the other half of the country to hate that half. For example, by murdering somebody and blaming it on half of the country. And I see it working. I can see people do it. I saw people in the comments. Why are we even discussing? It was one of my posts making fun of how stupid the official story is. Yeah, somebody committed murder, broad daylight, wide out in the open on a roof, and decided, you know, before I run a little bit, I should probably sit here and disassemble my Mauser. No, 0 people would do that. And then run and jump off the roof, and so many things don't make sense. Here's the security camera that shows all the way from the point he shot to where he jumped off the roof. You get to see the video of him jumping off the roof. If the security camera covered where you said he was when he took the shot, why aren't you showing us the video of him taking the shot? The camera covers that by their own admission. Here's the whole image. We showed you this little bit. Why not the bit of him taking the shot? Is it because the patsy didn't fake it well enough and nobody would buy that shit? So then they have to make up this convoluted, ridiculous story. So they're not good at it. But if you understand how psychopaths work, and you try to, and the thing is, it would be scary if most of the world could understand how psychopaths work. Because to me, it takes lots of effort to get in their mind and what do they function like, because it's really uncomfortable. And it's not what I function like, and it's not what you function like. It's not the way you think. Where a psychopath is I don't care if anybody dies or suffers or not. I just care if it benefits me. So if I have a neighbor and being nice to him benefits me because they'll do me favors, I'll do that. And if killing him favors me, I'll do that. Same difference to me. I don't care. I'm a psychopath. That's how they think. That's how they function. They will absolutely murder people. You know they will murder people to serve their end. So they might murder a few immigrants at an ICE facility in order to play the victim, to say, this is why we need more security, and how dare you say mean things about the Nazis at ICE. I mean, the brave men and women who just want to get home to their... So that's how they function. Now, it's actually better for humanity when their stooges are bumbling morons like Kash Patel, an absolute idiot, lying scumbag covering up heinous crimes. Where's that truckload of Epstein evidence there, Cash? You slimy, lying sack of shit. But it's handy when they're that bumbling and stupid, because lots of people can look at it and go, what? You want us to believe that? Miraculously, a round of 30-06 hit somebody straight in the neck, but somehow didn't go out the other side. Bullshit. That did not happen. Oh, but here's this person quoting some unnamed surgeon who said he looked at it and said that's what happened. It should have gone through, but by some miracle it didn't. And so magically his super titanium adamantium spine of Charlie Kirk bravely saved the people behind him. Give me a fucking break. That is not what happened. That's a bald-faced lie. And huge numbers of people can see that's a bald-faced lie. I have a .308 rifle. It's a little bit less powerful than a 30-06. The idea that anybody's human neck would stop a round of that is absolutely ridiculous. And I see some people say, well, if it bounced off his bulletproof vest first, yeah, that would be a possibility if he was wearing one, which he wasn't. And by the way, which the miraculous unnamed surgeon wasn't even pretending. He wasn't saying, well, it bounced off this and then stayed there. Pretending it was a direct shot and that a vertebra stopped a round of 30-06. No, it fucking didn't. Obvious bald-faced lie. So it's actually handy when their liars are that bad at it. But that's still up against the obstacle of people who don't want to imagine that our loving government that protects and serves us has a bunch of psychopathic murderers in it, which they absolutely do, and they always have. But a lot of people will look at this evidence and want it to be real. They won't want to look and go, is there the slightest possibility that that's true? Like about his neck stopped the bullet. No, there is not. There's 0% chance that that's true. That is an absolute bald-faced lie. Coming from an unnamed surgeon who probably doesn't exist. But that was the lie that the ruling class decided to make up. But the average person, if they're stuck between believing an absolutely ridiculous lie, and there's a dozen or so of them in the official story about Charlie Kirk's murder, given the choice between believing just ridiculous lies and having to think, is this government run by people who would just murder other people for their own benefit? Most people want to believe the lies, on the left and right, which is why lots of people are like, oh, we don't need to talk about that. It was just a deranged leftist. It's like, while that would have been a possibility to begin with, because there are some of those and they've demonstrated they're capable of violence, the official story shows that no, that was a patsy. None of that adds up. That's not how anything works. None of the story matches up. But so people on the left and the right will go, yeah, but I want this simplified thing so I can just hate the left and not want to admit that the people I elected are psychopathic murderers. They are. And it's convenient that they demonstrate that pretty often. Donald Trump demonstrates that he is a psychopathic murderer when, are they up to 3 times now just murdering people in a boat? Nowhere near U.S. jurisdiction. Well, we allege that they're bringing drugs in our direction or in some other direction, whatever, and we're just going to blow them up and brag about it. We're going to brag about murder and war crimes because that's what that is. When you kill civilians, even if you're alleging they're later going to do some crime actually within the jurisdiction of the U.S., I mean, drug war is still bullshit even if they made it there, but that's murder and a war crime. That's not disputable, and Trump is out there bragging about it because he's a fucking psychopath. And his followers having to choose between, well, that's righteous and brave, and holy shit, I voted for a fucking psychopath. They will not want to admit reality. Well, guess what? If that clown puppet is willing to murder 11 people off in the ocean somewhere, nowhere near the U.S.'s territory anyway, do you really think he's not willing to murder 11 Americans or 1 American to serve his political agenda? Do you really think, oh, it's absolutely incomprehensible that he would order the murder of somebody because his puppet masters told him to, who used to sort of be on our side, but now he's sort of wandering off the reservation. But hey, we could get a lot of mileage out of that guy dying. We can get lots of people going rah, rah, rah for our party and for the bullshit we're pushing, that he was sort of heading in maybe a different direction. So now he's worth more to us dead than he is alive. If you can't comprehend the fact that people in power think that way, like often on a regular basis, then you don't understand the game and the news is not going to make sense to you. And I'm not even saying that in particular happened, but that is 1,000 times more likely than the stupid official story they're trying to sell. And if you don't get how these people work, your investigation and your wondering about it is immediately going to be worthless. Because you're starting by saying, well, it was not going to be some government conspiracy. Really? So you're going to start out your like little internal murder investigation by ruling out the institution that has committed more murder than anything else in the history of the world by a factor of like thousands or millions? You think you're a super sleuth because you start by ruling out the exact people who have murdered more human beings than anyone else in the history of the world? Just because you don't want the discomfort of wondering if people in power in your country are that fucking psychopathic? They are. No matter what happened at the ICE facility, they are. No matter what happened to Charlie Kirk, they are. They're that frickin' evil. And if you can't comprehend that, and if you don't take that into account while trying to understand the world while you're looking out at it, you're going to be a duped, confused idiot. Because you're going to think, well, they wouldn't do that. No, it must have been this ridiculously implausible set of claims that don't add up. They don't even match each other. But it must have been that, because considering the alternative is too scary. That's why they do it. That's why they intentionally do things so horrible that normal people won't want to consider the possibility that the psychopaths they voted for would do such a thing. I'm here to tell you, if you vote Democrat or you vote Republican, some of the people you voted for would absolutely murder you if they thought it would help their power. And if you don't yet understand that, you're going to keep being a gullible idiot and a pawn of the worst people in the world, and you're going to keep empowering psychopaths. Only when you dare to comprehend what it is that government has been for centuries and got caught doing over and over and over again. Well, you can read about, the false flags that the Third Reich did and all these nasty things that Stalin lied about and all these nasty games that Mao played and all these nasty things that happen over and over again. But our loving government wouldn't do. Yeah, they're counting on you to be that stupid and that gullible and that ignorant so that you start the process of trying to understand what's going on. You start by thinking, they're not that bad. They wouldn't do that. There is nothing so evil that there aren't some people in government who would absolutely do it to serve their own power. And until you face that, learn it, read some history books, read Operation Northwoods, until you understand that, you will never understand what is going on in the world on a day-to-day basis. And then you'll look around and go, oh, these silly conspiracy theorists who actually have logically coherent explanations for what happened. No, they're just silly extremist kooks. I'm going to proudly cling to this claim because Mango Mussolini is telling me this is and his stooges, Cash Patel and Pam Bondi. No, Epstein didn't traffic anybody, it turns out, and there was no evidence. And the official story of Charlie Kirk murder, doesn't seem to add up in any way, shape, or form, but it must be true because Cash Patel is dead. And this person at the ice facility really did write anti-ice on a bullet and leave it there. Oh, and then shoot himself conveniently, so we can't find out anything more about that. They're going to keep doing evil shit as long as it works. And it's going to keep working until you dare to face the whole heinous, ugly truth of the nature of what people who gravitate towards power are actually like. They're fucking psychopaths. And if you don't yet know that, you're going to keep falling for it and you're going to keep empowering psychopaths.
To wield real power, you must be willing to do what most consider unthinkable.